Not to try to take it from him, because even robbers believe in keeping what is theirs. Let me explain this clever plan. Everyone knew that the Doones liked money, strong drink, and other pleasures, especially gold when it was pure. So we decided to use this weakness to trick them. We knew they laughed at our simple country ways. After fighting off the king's soldiers and the troops of 2 counties, they would never think that a group of farmers could beat them. We understood that they were proud and that regular soldiers had already failed. So men like us, with only a few weapons, could not win unless we used a very smart plan and worked together. Maybe even the soldiers could have won before, if they had fought the Doones instead of fighting each other. We learned from this mistake. If we had failed because we were too sure of ourselves, maybe the Doones would fail for the same reason. Our plan was to make some of the robbers leave their home, so we could attack the rest by surprise. We spread word that a large pile of gold had been collected at the Wizard's Slough mine. When this rumor reached the Doones, through the women who sometimes came and went for them, we sent Captain Simon Carfax, the father of little Gwenny, to meet secretly with the Doone councillor at night. Simon would pretend to be angry with the mine owners. He would say he wanted to help the Doones get revenge and make money. He would promise to give them most of the gold sent up for cleaning that Friday night. He would keep 1/4, and they would take the rest. But he would tell them the guards with him were strong and well armed, so the Doones should send at least 20 men. When they met at the chosen place, Simon would stop the group and secretly make the guards' guns useless by putting water in the powder. It took money and effort to make the brave Cornishman agree to this false plan, and maybe he would never have done it without his debt to me and his anger about his daughter's troubles. But he was the right man for the job. He was cool, brave, and already known to be in charge of the mine. So I pressed him to do it, and at last he agreed to tell all the lies we needed. He did it very well once he decided, because he wanted the robbers destroyed too. Chapter 71. A long account settled. We decided to attack at night, because most of our men had never been in a real fight. They could not be expected to walk straight into enemy guns. We did not spend much time training them, only teaching them how to hold a musket and get used to its noise. We chose Friday night for the attack. The moon would be full, and our gunpowder was coming from Dulverton that afternoon. Uncle Reuben did not plan to fight himself. He was too old for that and valued his life and business. But his advice, his men, and especially his warehouse workers, strong men used to beating carpets, helped us much. His miners also worked hard for us, because they hated the Doones as everyone did within 30 miles. The plan was for the horsemen and miners to stop and fight any Doones who went to steal the false gold. When those Doones were far from the valley, we would attack from behind instead of through their strong main gate. We would use my old water slide to climb up secretly. I chose 20 young men, miners, warehouse workers, sheep farmers, and others I could trust for their strength and courage. With our tools, and me leading, I was sure we could climb up to the high ground where I first met Lorna. I was glad that Lorna was not there. It would hurt her to see her own family and old friends killed, or to see them kill us. But we had made our choice. This time we would finish the fight, like honest Englishmen who must choose between their life or the enemy's life. There were few men with us who had not suffered because of the bad people we were going to fight. One man had lost his wife. Another had lost his daughter. A third had lost his best cow. Almost everyone had lost something, even if it was only a haystack. What surprised me then was that the men who lost the least were the ones who shouted the most about revenge. Still, from poor Kit Badcock to rich Master Huckaback, everyone wanted to stop these troublemakers for good. The moon was already high above the hills when our chosen group started to move. We took the short path along the valley to the foot of the Bagworthy stream. We gave the other group 1 hour to come around the moors and hills. We were not to begin our climb until we heard a gun fired from the left-hand hill. John Fry waited there, as he and his wife had asked to stay out of danger. It was the same place where I had often sat before to look for Lorna. John Fry was to fire his gun, stuffed with wool, as soon as he heard fighting begin at the Doone gate. We, near the waterfall, could not hear the noise from there. We waited a long time. The moon climbed higher in the sky, and the soft fog moved like white waves above the grass. Then the fog lifted, and the moon wrapped herself in white and shone on the water like a bride looking in a mirror. But still there was no sound from John Fry or his gun. I began to think that John, being safe and warm, had fallen asleep. His wife had told him to take a blanket, because one of the children had a cold. Maybe he had wrapped himself up and gone to sleep while the rest of us would fight or die. I was wrong to think badly of John. Suddenly there came a very loud noise, like thunder, echoing between the rocks.
"That is the signal, my friends!" I shouted.
I jumped up and rubbed my eyes. While I had blamed John unfairly, he had done his duty well.
"Now hold the rope and put your sticks across it," I told the men. "Keep your guns pointed up. Do not shoot each other by accident."
"We will never shoot one another with our guns pointed that way, I think," said an older man. He was a strong fellow and known for his dry jokes.
"You come next to me, old Ike," I said. "You are dry enough to stop the river. Now listen well. Lean forward when we climb. If a man leans back, he will fall. He might never climb up again, and he might even shoot himself by mistake."
I was most afraid that someone might shoot me by accident. When we climbed up the steep hill, I did not fear the rocks or the water as much as the loaded guns we carried. If one man slipped, his gun might go off, and since I was climbing first, I would be the one most likely to get hurt. Because of this, I talked with Uncle Ben and Cousin Tom about climbing with the guns unloaded. But they were not there with us, and they said there was nothing to worry about unless someone was very clumsy. They also said it would be dangerous to load the guns at the top in the dark and noisy confusion of the fight. Thank God, when one gun went off, no one was hurt. The Doones did not notice it because there was heavy firing in front of them. Tom Faggers had orders to make as much noise as possible in the front attack without showing himself. They were to wait until our group behind started to fight, and John Fry was to give us the signal. Our chosen group moved quietly up the meadow. We stayed in the shadows and close to the watercourse. The first sign the councillor or anyone else had of us was when the logwood house burst into flames. This was the house where that wicked man Carver lived. I had insisted that I should be the one to start the fire. No one else was allowed to do it. I had made everything ready for a big blaze. When I saw the fire rise and heard the crackling, I felt a strong joy because that man had burned many homes before, and now his own house was burning. We were careful to hurt no innocent people. We brought all the women and children out first. Some were happy to leave, and some were sad. Carver had about 10 or 12 wives, which might be why he did not seem to care much when he lost Lorna. One child caught my eye as I saved him. He was a lovely, fair boy, and I could tell that Carver really did care for him. The boy climbed on my back, and even though I hated his father, I could not do anything to upset him. After saving these poor people, we moved under the cliff to hide. But first we set fire to 3 more houses. We called to the women to come out and tell their husbands to fight the 100 men waiting for them. In the smoke and noise, they believed there really were 100 of us. They ran in fear toward the fight at the Doone Gate.
All Doonetown is on fire. 100 soldiers are burning it, and a huge man leads them.
We heard them cry as they ran. Everything happened as I expected. The Doone warriors came rushing back, leaving only 2 or 3 men at the gate. They were filled with anger and ready to crush the farmers below. Then the fire grew higher and brighter. It shone on the trees and the water, turning everything red. Women and children could be seen shining in the light. But the greatest sight was the group of proud Doone men walking down the road together. They looked strong and brave, even though they were heading to their deaths. There were not many of them, and I did not want to shoot. I pointed my gun at the leader, who seemed to be bold young Charlie, but I still hoped we might take them prisoners instead. I did not want to give the order to fire. My men did not wait for me. They hated these Doones, who had stolen their homes and families. When old Ikey raised his gun, everyone followed. A dozen guns fired together. Half of the Doones fell to the ground, silent and still like fallen logs. Chapter 72. The Councillor and the Carver. Although I had seen battles before, none looked as terrible as this one. At first, I wanted to stop our men for fighting so harshly. But in a moment, I saw they were right. The valley was full of screams and the noise of crashing houses. Burning beams fell into the river and hissed. Then the rest of the dunes rushed at us like wild men. They fired their guns without aim because the smoke and bushes hid us. When their guns were empty, they used their swords and fought hard. Even though we were twice their number, we stepped back for a short time because they fought bravely. I admired their courage very much. I did not like to see two men attack one. So I held my hand for a while. I wanted only to fight Carver, but he was not there. The noise and the fast movement of the fight were too strong. I could not think clearly or see what was happening. But one thing stayed in my mind for many years. Christopher Badcock gave his life to get revenge on Charlie Doone. No one knew how he found the truth. They both had lived with this secret for years. Charlie had helped Carver take Kit's wife long ago. By chance, she became Charlie's woman. Kit had discovered this, and he never forgot it. That night was his time for revenge. He came to fight without a weapon. He only asked me to let him stand in the center of the battle. He said life no longer mattered to him after losing his wife and child. But death mattered, and he wanted to use it well. I had never seen such a face as his when he saw Charlie coming. Before that, we thought Kit was a quiet and patient man. He spoke gently, and some men made rude jokes about his wife and baby, but he stayed calm. We thought nothing could make him angry, but I had heard him cry in the barn when no one else was near. So I was less surprised when the firelight showed him going to Charlie. He walked to him as if he had the right to do so. He was a strong man and looked at Charlie closely. He asked for a few words in private. I do not know what they said. I only know that both of them died there, even though neither had a weapon. Marjorie Badcock came later and held her husband. She cried over him and died a few months after from heart trouble. That night was the time of payment for many wrongs. Every part of it was answered. I do not like to speak of killing, even when the men are evil. But that was a night of fire, death, and long-kept anger. Before morning light came on that cold March day, only two Doones were still alive, the councillor and Carver. All their fine houses were gone. They had lived in rich comfort and pleasure, but everything was burned and fell into the river. Some may think our revenge was cruel. And I, who led the fighting, have often wondered in my later years how God will judge me. Not men, for men often judge wrongly, but God, whose kindness is great. From that great confusion we came back the next day. Nothing can be broken without a lot of noise and trouble. People complained and talked sadly about the old days. They said life was better then, and every man was a gentleman. They even said the sun was brighter before the metal image was destroyed. Among all this unhappiness, we returned full of worry as well as pride. We wondered what to do with all the women and children who had no one to help them. We also worried about how we would answer to the judges or even to Lord Jeffreys. We had stopped the robbers without a warrant, and that might bring us trouble. Then we had another problem. There was a lot of treasure, and people started to fight for it. Every man who had been robbed wanted payment for what he lost. The lords of the manors wanted it all. The king's tax officer at Pollock wanted it. The men who fought with us wanted a share. Even the priests, Bowden and Powell, and one without a parish wanted part of it. They said the church would be angry if they did not get their share. All this was not right. It felt like we had destroyed one band of robbers but made many new ones. Because people trusted me to be honest, they made me keeper of the treasure. I thought of a plan that pleased almost no one, but it worked well enough. The people who argued started to fight each other. Then they were friendly with me again, because each side blamed the other. My plan was simple. I decided not to pay anything to the lords, the priests, or the king's officer. After paying back some people who had lost too much, I would send the rest, about £50,000, to the king's treasury in Westminster. Then anyone who wanted money could ask for it through the court. This plan was clever. The name of the court and the cost of its lawyers made most people stop arguing. Even the farmers and the priests gave up their claims. The king's officer said he was satisfied, although he was really the most unhappy, because he lost his chance for profit. Because of this plan, I unknowingly made a strong friend. That friend was Lord Jeffreys, the most powerful man in the country. He had become head of both law and equity after sending many people to their deaths. Most of them were innocent, but the king liked his sternness and gave him even more power. I must tell you truly that I did not know then that Lord Jeffreys had been promoted. Even if I had known, I would have done the same thing. I wanted to pay money to the office, not to any man. I did not think who might receive it later. In the king's treasury, the money belonged to common law. The court, called chancery, dealt with fairness and chance. But what happened was clear. Lord Jeffreys, now head of the law and almost ruler of the land, took the money and was pleased. This solved our second worry. When the law itself took the treasure, it could no longer question what we had done. Next, we did not know what to do for a long time about the women and children. We tried very hard to help them at the farm. Other people helped too, until they could take care of themselves. After some time, this worry slowly went away. Some women returned to their parents, their husbands, or their sweethearts. Others went away to work for themselves. Some sailed to new lands, where women were wanted, and some moved to English towns. Those who were not so fair found work in the fields. Most of the children went with their mothers. Some learned trades as apprentices. Only one child stayed with me, Carver Doone's handsome boy. He had lost his mother. This boy was with me wherever I went. He began to like me very much, as I first saw in his eyes near the fire. His father hated me, but the boy loved me. I saw that he was brave and honest. He had a proud spirit, and because of that, I grew fond of him too. He told us his name was Ensie, which meant Enza, I suppose, from his family name, Sir Enza Doone. Ensie seemed to be Carver's heir, since he was born in marriage, unlike most of the Doones. Although I cared for the boy, I felt worried about his father. Carver had escaped. He was a wild and cruel man, free to wander through the country, hungry and angry. He was very strong and clever with weapons, and he might want revenge. The miners were to blame for his escape, and I myself was to blame for letting the councillor go free. Some people say they are treated badly if one does not tell all, so I will explain what happened. After the young Doones attacked us, we fought them back and broke their charge. Poor Kit Badcock died while holding the dead Charlie in his arms. Then I saw something white on the grass, like a washed sheep's head in the moonlight. It moved quietly between the dark and the firelight. I wanted to see what it was, so I ran to stop it before it reached the small door we called Gwennis' door. The white thing saw me and stopped, ready to turn back. I ran faster, and soon I saw it was the councillor with his long silver hair. He had been crawling away on his hands and knees, but now he stood up in front of me.
"John," he said. "Sir John, please do not act unfairly toward your old friend. These men are violent. I trust you to protect me, John."
"Honored sir, you are right," I said. "But that way of escaping was not fitting for you. I will let you go free."
"I knew it," he said quickly. "You are a noble man, John. I said so from the start. You are noble and belong among the best."
"But only if you agree to two things," I said, holding his arm gently, because he tried to move toward the door. "The first is that you tell me honestly who killed my father."
"I will tell you the truth," said the councillor. "It was my son, Carver."
"I guessed it long ago," I said. "It was not your fault, sir, because you were not there."
"If I had been there, it would not have happened," he said. "I am always against violence. Let me go now. This place makes me uneasy."
"You shall go soon," I said. "But first you must do one more thing for me. Give me Lady Lorna's diamond necklace."
"Ah," said the old man sadly. "I have often wished I could make things right and return it."
"Then please try to do so," I said. "With help, you might find the courage."
"Alas, John," he said softly. "I was ready long ago to do it. But the necklace is not with me. Carver, my son, who killed your father, has the necklace. What are jewels to me now, young man? They are useless things. I hate them for the sins they brought into my life. When you are my age, good Sir John, you will not love jewels either. You will only care about having a clean heart and a quiet mind. Let me go. I have made peace with God.
He looked very old and calm in the moonlight. His hair was white like silver. I almost believed his words. But then I saw him pull in his chest. I once noticed that when an honest man speaks big and good thoughts, he lifts his chest with pride, as if his heart grows strong. But this old man drew his chest in more than once, as if he hid something there.
Will you praise me, kind sir, I said and held him tight, if I help you truly make peace with God. The promise is on your heart, I think, because something is lying there now.
I said this softly and then reached into his waistcoat. I gave him a quick apology for touching him so roughly. Then I pulled out Lorna's necklace. It shone in the moonlight like new stars dancing. The old man suddenly tried to stab me with a knife I had not seen. But his attack failed. Then he fell to his knees and lifted his hands.
Oh, please, John, my son, do not take them from me, he said. They are mine, and I love them so much. I would give almost my life for them. There is one jewel I can look at for hours. I see the lights of heaven inside it. I will never see such beauty anywhere else. My whole life has been full of sin and lies. Oh, John, I am a false man. But please, give me back my jewels. Or kill me here. I am weak before you, but I must have them back.
His white hair fell around his face like a silver crown. His strong face showed true feeling for the first time. I was surprised and moved by this strange mix of goodness and guilt. For a moment, I almost gave him the necklace. But then I remembered what was right. They say all the Rids are honest people, though I am not always so. This time, I tried to be. So I said calmly,
Sir Counselor, I cannot give you what is not mine. But if you show me the one diamond that is most precious to you, I will cut it out and give it to you. Then you must be happy with that. I ask you, please, do not die with that jewel on your lips.
Seeing that there was no better choice, he showed me the jewel he loved most. I thought about what Lorna meant to me as I cut it free with my knife and gave it to him carefully. In another moment he was gone, leaving through Gwen's small door, and I never knew what happened to him after that. Now about Carver, this is what I learned as well as I could from the brave miners. None of them told the same story, and not one of them told it twice the same way. The Doones, who went out to rob the false convoy, met Simon Carfax at an old ruined house called the Warren. It was in that part of Bagworthy Forest where the small river Exe runs through. Everyone in our country knew the Warren. It once belonged to a kind old man called the Squire. He had stopped working and wanted to spend his last years fishing, hunting, and helping his neighbors. He had some money, and no poor person ever left the Warren hungry or empty-handed. But the poor squire made a great mistake. He thought he could end his life in peace beside the river and under the trees. One evening, as he walked home from the stream with his fishing rod on his shoulder, the Doones attacked him. They killed him, took his goods, and burned his house. After that, good people were afraid to pass the Warren at night. They said the squire's ghost walked there on certain moonlit nights. He had his fishing rod and his box of fish hooks in one hand, a basket on his back, and sometimes he laughed loudly, remembering how close he had come to the Doones. When we think about it, it seems right that the place of one of the worst Doone crimes became, 20 years later, the place of their punishment. Although the Warren was far from the mine, and the gold on its way to Bristol or London should have gone the other way, Captain Carfax told the Doones that for government reasons the gold must first go to Barnstable. He said it was to be checked there, and since everyone knew the government often sent things the wrong way, they believed him. When Simon met the group of evil Doones in the woods where the moonlight shone, he asked them to get off their horses. He led them with great mystery into the squire's burned and empty hall, dark and growing with weeds.
"Captain, I have found something," he said to Carver Doone. "It will help us pass the time before the gold comes. Smugglers are clever men, but miners can see even better. There is a cask of good drink hidden behind the broken fireplace. Let one man watch outside, and let us taste it."
They all agreed, and Carver drank with Simon. Soon all the Doones were laughing and drinking. Simon said he must check that they did not drink too much. He pulled water from the old well, the same one where they had thrown the dead squire, and told them to mix it with their liquor. Some agreed, some did not. But while they drank, Simon poured water from that well into the firing pans of all their guns, just as he had planned to do with the guns of the men they meant to kill.
Then, when Carver stood up with a full glass in his hand and spoke of the squire's ghost, a group of men appeared in the broken doorway. They pointed their guns at all the Doones.
I do not know what happened next, for no one lived to tell clearly. The Doones tried to grab their guns and shoot, but their guns were wet and useless. They saw they were betrayed but fought bravely anyway. I cannot speak much of fighting, it stirs wild feelings in me that I wish to forget. It is enough to say they fought hard, and though they were bad men, they died like men in the house of the squire they had killed. With them died younger Witchholes, who had sadly joined them against his good father's wishes. Only Carver Doone escaped. He lived because he was very strong, had a terrible face that frightened others, and stayed calm even in danger. I am glad to say that only 8 of the brave miners died in the fight, or from their wounds later. Together with the 8 men we lost in the attack on the valley, 16 of our people were gone in all. Among them were 2 very good warehouse workers. So 16 lives were lost to get rid of nearly 40 Doones. Each of those Doones would probably have killed 3 more men if they had lived longer. So, as I said then, this was a great victory at a fair cost. About 40 Doones were destroyed in the valley and at the warrens, even though they were strong and very good with guns. Among us simple farmers, only 16 died, though some were hurt. Out of those 16, only 2 had wives, and those wives did not care much for them. Still, I was upset that Carver escaped, mostly for Lorna's sake. I did not want Carver to die, any more than I wanted the councillor to die. But it was dangerous for us to have such a strong and angry man still free. He was like a hungry wolf running around the sheepfold. I blamed the local horsemen for letting him get away. They had been placed near the Doone gate to stop anyone who ran from our men. But they said it was not their fault. Carver had ridden right through them on his horse at full speed. Before they even thought to shoot, he was almost gone. A boy later said that Captain Carver rode through the Doone gate and up the valley. There he saw all the houses burning, including his own. He had often enjoyed such firelight when it came from other people's property. He cried out in anger, swore a terrible oath, and, seeing he had lost, rode his big black horse away into the dark. Chapter 73. How to get out of Chancery. Many things happened to me then, more than I can tell. I was like a boy whose teacher is almost at the door, and he has not learned his lesson. He makes poor excuses, and the work is bad. I feel the same when I think of my wasted time, when I should have worked but played instead. Still, every man must act according to his own mind. I am not a clever man, but I hope people will feel more kindness than anger toward me for trying my best. When I wrestled in the ring, I always helped a man fall softly if he fought fairly. And what happened next was not a fall but a great rise for me. It was the happiest event of my life. It was the return of Lorna, my dear love. She came back strong and happy, as bright as a bird in spring. Just to see her face would make anyone joyful for a whole year. Her eyes and smile shone, and she even blushed when I greeted her. The house seemed full of sunlight when she moved around again. She wanted to look at everything and asked where the old cat had gone. It felt as if the sun had come over the hill and Lorna was its mirror. My mother sat in her old chair, wiped her cheeks, and smiled at her. Even Liz's eyes shone at the sight of her beauty. As for me, I was so happy I almost went mad. I ran outside and threw my best hat onto the barn roof. Then I kissed Mother Fry until she tried to hit me with her sugar tongs. Lorna had many things to tell us, but Mother and Lizzie often stopped her to ask questions or hug her. Lorna also stopped herself sometimes, running to one of us in her excitement. Soon we had to think about food, because she was surely hungry after her long journey home to Exmoor.
"Oh, I love it all so much," Lorna said again and again, not only about the food. "The smell of the flowers on the moor made me wild with joy, and I saw primroses along the hedges. I was born for life in a farmhouse, Lizzie," she said, seeing Liz's teasing look. "Just as you were born to be a soldier's wife and write his letters of victory. And now, mother dear, since you are too polite to ask and even John does not dare, I must tell you something I plan to keep until morning. I cannot wait any longer. I am free now. What do you think of that, mother? I am my own mistress."
"Then you will not wait so long," I said.
Mother did not understand her at first and looked around for her glasses.
"My dear, you will be the mistress, and I will be your master," I added.
"You say that very openly," she said. "It is true, but it is also early to speak of such things, John. Still, if it is meant to be, it must happen." She smiled, then began to cry softly and fell against my chest.
Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I sat and smoked my pipe. I could hardly believe how lucky I was. I had no special skill except my strength and my honesty. Yet I was now in a place that even the noblest man in England might envy. The finest lady in the land loved me with all her heart. She held me close as if no one else could ever replace me. I thought about this for a long time while smoking the tobacco she had brought for me. It was almost as wonderful as she was. As I watched the smoke rise, I said to myself, this happiness may not last. I do not deserve it. I could find no way to think differently, so I decided to trust in God. Then I went to bed and dreamed about Lorna and our future. I did not even pray, I only hoped for the best and fell asleep. Before sleep took me, I felt as if angels were above my roof, watching over Lorna and me. In the morning, Lorna was ready to tell her story, and we were ready to listen. Her dress was made of simple cloth, yet it looked wonderful because it suited her so well. Lizzie was full of jealousy, which was no surprise. Annie would never have been jealous, she would have praised the dress and asked for the pattern. Mother looked at Lorna's dress too but did not understand it. Lately my dear mother was slower and weaker. She had suffered much, and sadness was making her quiet. We said she could not hear well, but I thought something else. I believed that seeing me ready for marriage made her remember father and her own courtship from 30 years ago. She was the best mother anyone could wish for. She smiled and tried to be happy about what the young people were doing. She also pretended that she could notice everything. Still, she wisely kept her opinion to herself because no one could see how things would end. Lorna was not afraid of what might come. She was too young and full of life to worry. She got up very early and went out to feed the hens. She knew every one of them by name. I caught her and kissed her warmly because no one could see us. She said she would never come outside again, yet she did the next morning. Maybe I should not tell such details, but I must. Life often gives trouble, so when joy appears, it should not be hidden. How can anything be more blessed than being young and strong, loving a good girl, and being loved in return? I was proud when I learned what Lorna had done because she did it only for love of me. The old steward of Earl Brandir, who had travelled with her, thought she was a lovely but foolish girl. He looked at her with mixed pity and surprise, especially after seeing our simple home. Lorna thought differently. She found him kind but silly because he believed that happiness came from money and high position. She had already chosen to leave those things behind. They were enemies to her peace. She used the time wisely, for it was a period when people would do almost anything for money. The biggest money-taker in England, after the King and Queen, was the Lord Chief Justice Jeffreys. When he returned from cruel trials that made him famous, the king was pleased by his stories of power and punishment. The king said, "This man is fit to lead the law," and gave him the Great Seal of England. So it happened that Lorna's future now depended on Lord Jeffreys. At that time, Earl Brandir died from a sickness of the heart soon after I left London. Lorna felt very sad when she heard the news. But because he had never been able to hear her sweet voice, she did not cry for long. She felt sorry that a good man had gone, but she also felt peace knowing he was in a better place. Lord Chancellor Jeffreys saw that Lady Lorna Doone was a very rich young woman. He thought her money was worth a visit. So he came to see her himself. He had heard that she was both rich and beautiful, but she loved only plain John Ridd. The Lord Chancellor liked to hear and spread news, even though he cared for no one.
Lorna spoke to him with kind and clever words. She made him believe he could gain much gold.
He was not fully sober when he made his decision, but he agreed quickly. He gave Lorna, under his seal and signature, the right to marry me, John Ridd. The only rule was that we must have the king's consent.
The king was friendly toward me because of my past service. He also thought I was a good man and a good Catholic. The queen liked Lorna and wished to please her. So His Majesty agreed without much delay. He said that when Lorna became of age and could control her land, she must pay a large fine to the crown. She also had to give part of her estates to support the Catholic faith as the king would decide. But before this could happen, King James lost his throne. A new king came who did not wish to help the Catholic Church or ask for such payments. So their plan was declared worthless. Still, no one could get back the money paid to Lord Jeffreys.
At that time, we did not care about money. We only cared for each other. Lorna told me with a sweet smile that if I wanted her, I must take her without wealth. She planned to give her lands to her family when she came of age, saying they were not fit for a farmer's wife. I told her warmly that I wished for this very thing but had never dared to ask.
But my dear mother looked very serious. She said her opinion might not matter much, but she hoped that in 3 years' time we would both be wiser. She wished we would think more about our future, and maybe about other people too. She spoke of Master Snow, who had daughters but no sons to take his farm. She said no one knew what might happen in 3 years. Perhaps his farm would be for sale then. Maybe Lorna's land in Scotland would be sold for enough money to buy it. Then both farms could join as one, and the brook would no longer divide them, just as my poor father had once wished. Mother went on, saying that if someday we young people grew tired of her, as often happens, we could send her to live at the other farm with Lizzie for company. When she finished speaking and wiped her eyes, Lorna blushed and rushed to hug her. She kissed Mother warmly and told her not to doubt us so much. Mother said that if anyone was worthy of her John, it was Lorna. But she still believed it was unwise to give up so much money. She also said that Lorna's closest heir might be John himself, so no one could know what the future would bring when Lorna turned 21.
Hereupon, I saw that my mother's idea made good sense. If Master Snow's farm was ever for sale, it would be wiser to buy it than to dream about fine things like a coat of arms. The land there was very good and would give our sheep and cattle a nice change of grass. Also, because of Annie's great skill, and even more now that she had left us, their butter always sold for 1 to 3 farthings more per pound than ours. This always made us unhappy. But if we could buy the farm, we could sell all the butter as Snow butter. That would not break any market rule or hurt anyone. The price difference was only about people's opinions. Our customers would be pleased, and we would gain as well. Still, I remembered that Farmer Nicholas might live many more years, which I truly hoped he would. Maybe one or more of his pretty daughters would marry a good young farmer and keep the land. Or maybe the farm would never be sold at all. So I asked my dear Lorna to do as she wished, or rather to wait and think, for she could do nothing yet. Chapter 74. Blood upon the altar. Everything was arranged quietly and peacefully. There was no fear and no trouble. Lorna was to see her long sadness end, and I was to end my waiting, with Parson Bowden to help us, and the good wishes of both our neighbours. I could hardly believe how lucky I was. When I looked at her lovely face, her kind heart, her gentle ways, and her happy spirit, I could not think of any greater joy. She was still very young, yet already a woman. She was full of playfulness again, even more than before, as if her hard past had made her joy stronger. Her heart had once been held back and made quiet too early, but now her joy shone freely, mixed with her tender woman's feeling. Her love for me touched everything she said and did, and I could see it every time I looked at her. To me, she was the most beautiful sight in the world. But such happiness could not last forever. Soon it would turn to fear and pain. In her quietest moments, when we were alone together and her bright eyes softened, I could see that she still felt afraid. She would come close to me, looking half shy, half in fear, and put her arm around my neck. Then she would ask softly if I could live without her. I felt her deep worry and began to fear that some evil was near us. The closer our wedding day came, the stronger my uneasy feelings grew. I kept watching over Lorna all the time. I even forgot about a field of beans, a litter of little pigs, and a cow that was a bit sick. One day I let Jem Slocum sleep all afternoon in the barn, and Bill Dad's drink a bucket of cider without asking me first. I cared only for Lorna then. For these men knew that my title as a knight, my coat of arms, and especially my love, did not fit well with farming life. In our country, people believed that if a man tried to rise above others, he must expect to be cheated. But I never tried to show off. Even when everyone in the parish told me to, I would not. I still whistled the same tunes to my horses and held my plough the same way. It did not matter that a king or a queen had once changed my life. Because of this, many of the men nearby spoke against me. But the women praised me. And often, women are right when the matter does not touch themselves. Even if I tried to stay humble, everyone in our part of the country now talked about John Ridd and his wedding. There had been a fierce fight with the Doones not long ago, and I had led that battle, though I did no more than was needed. Sir Counsellor had disappeared. Carver had ridden wildly, and many women said with fear that he had gone to hell. He himself had shouted that this was his plan as he fought through the yeomen. Later, those same women felt sorry for him, thinking how sad it was to leave all his children behind. All these things caused great talk and excitement about my wedding to Lorna. We heard that people would come from over 30 miles away. They said they wanted to see my size and Lorna's beauty, but really, they only came because they were curious and liked to gossip. Our church clerk announced that no man could come inside the church without paying 1 shilling. Each woman must pay 2 shillings, because they would see more. I thought this was unfair. As church warden, I asked that the money be given to me when collected. But the clerk said that was against the law. He told me the parson had ordered him to give it to him at once. I usually obey the parson when I do not care much about the matter, so I let them do as they wished, though I did feel I should have had part of that money. Dear mother planned every detail of the ceremony. Annie, Lizzie, all the Snows, and even Ruth Huckaback, after much asking, helped with the work. Their fine dresses filled the place so much that I hardly knew where to step. I almost wanted a stick to push their gowns aside. Then Lorna came out from a pew halfway down the church. She moved in a way that surprised me and took my left hand in her right. I prayed to God that it might soon be over. My dear Lorna looked so beautiful that I was almost afraid to look at her, though I saw every part of her beauty. She was surely scared, but no one could see it.
As for me, I said quietly to myself, I will get through this like a man who digs graves.
Lorna's dress was pure white, with a soft touch of pale lavender for the old Earl Brandir. It was very simple, but it looked perfectly beautiful. I was almost afraid to look at her. We both said I will, and looked at each other for a moment. No one who has not loved as I did could understand my joy and pride. When everything was done, the ring, the blessing, the prayers, Lorna turned to look at me. Her eyes were bright with gentle laughter, yet quiet because of the great moment. Her eyes were unlike any others in the world. They were full of comfort and love, and I felt surprised even though I knew them so well. Then suddenly, there was the loud sound of a gun, and her eyes were filled with pain. Lorna fell into my arms just as I was going to kiss her. Blood ran down the steps of the altar. She lay at my feet, trying to speak to me with her eyes. I lifted her, held her, and begged her to stay, but it was no use. Only a little red blood showed that life was still in her. After that, everything seemed like a dream to me. I can hardly remember what I did or thought. Her arms were weak around my neck as I held her close. She sighed deeply once, and then she became cold. So cold that I asked what time of year it was. It was Whit Tuesday, and the lilacs were in bloom. Why I thought of that at such a moment, only God knows. Our white lilacs outside were beautiful. Then I placed my wife in my mother's arms, told everyone to stay quiet, and went out to find the man who had done this. I knew who it was. There was only one man in the world, or at least in our part of it, who could do such a thing. I did not speak harshly, though my heart burned. I jumped onto our strongest horse. He had only a bridle, no saddle. I turned his head toward the way the men pointed. I do not remember who showed me the way. I only know I followed it. The men around me moved aside as I passed. I had no weapon. I rode out unarmed and still wore my wedding clothes, made by Annie and now covered with Lorna's blood. I wanted to find out whether there truly was a God of justice in this world. My horse ran fast across Black Barrow Down. I heard shouts, but they sounded far away, like whispers. Then I saw a man ahead on a big black horse. I knew it was Carver Doone.
Your life or mine, I said quietly to myself. As God decides. We will not both live another hour in this world.
I knew this man was very strong, and he had guns and a sword with him. I did not feel afraid of him. I was sure I could kill him. I followed him across the wide moor. Sometimes I saw no ground below me, and sometimes I could see every leaf and blade of grass. I did not care if he saw me or not. He looked back only once. Then I hid behind a rock near a wet swamp. He rode far ahead and as fast as he could. I saw that he carried something in front of him on the horse. He could not ride freely because of that. For a moment I thought it was Lorna. Then I remembered what had happened, and pain filled my heart. I rode faster and faster. I could see in my mind what he had done, the cruel act, the sadness, and the hopeless feeling. The man reached the narrow path that led from the moor to Cloven Rocks. When he saw me close behind, he turned and I saw he carried his small child, little Ensie. The boy saw me and cried out. He reached his hands towards me because he was afraid of his father's face. Carver Doone cursed loudly. He kicked his tired horse to go faster and took hold of his pistol. I knew his gun was empty after he had fired at Lorna. I felt strong inside and ready to win. I did not need spurs. My horse was very fresh and fast. I held him back to keep our pace steady. I knew the black horse ahead would soon grow weak if it climbed the steep hill. Carver knew this too. At the top, where two paths crossed, he pulled sharply on the reins and turned into the dark ravine that led to the Wizard's Slough. I felt cold and calm but very sure.
I told myself, you will not escape, Carver.
I followed slowly but safely. I knew he could not get out. He thought I was afraid and laughed low and proudly.
I thought, laugh now if you wish. We will see who wins.
Near me was an old oak tree, broken by storms. I stood up on my horse and pulled a strong limb from the tree. It broke in my hands. People still show the place where it came off. Suddenly Carver turned a corner and saw the deep dark bog. He pulled his horse back, frightened. I thought he would turn to fight, but he rode forward again, trying to find another way. There was a small path only known to men who study the ground well, but he could not find it and lost time. Then he turned, fired his pistol at me, and rode straight at me. He hit me with a bullet, but I did not stop. I moved my horse across his way and struck his horse's head with the heavy branch. Before he could reach me with his sword, man and horse fell together to the ground. They almost pulled my horse down too. Carver was shocked and lay still. I jumped down from my horse. I smoothed my hair back and made my arms ready to fight. The little boy ran to me and held my leg. He looked up at me with frightened eyes, and I almost felt afraid myself.
I said gently, Ensie, dear, go around that corner and look for a nice bunch of bluebells for the lady.
He obeyed me, walking slowly, turning to look back, and then smiling. While he went, I got ready to fight. I could have killed Carver while he was on the ground, but that would not be right. Carver looked angry and dark. He stood up slowly and searched for his weapons, but I had moved them away. Then he came close and stared at me. He liked to scare young men this way.
I will not hurt you, boy, he said proudly. I have given you enough punishment for your rude behavior. The rest I forgive, because you have been kind to my little son. Go away now and be satisfied.
For answer, I hit him lightly on the cheek. I did not want to hurt him, but I wanted him to feel it. I did not want to speak to a man like him. There was a flat piece of grass between us and the wet bog. I led him there politely, as I had seen people do in London. Then I let go of his coat so he could rest and get ready to fight. He could start when he wished. I think he knew his end had come. He saw how firm I stood. He saw my strong chest and hard muscles. But most of all, he saw my cold blue eyes. His face grew pale, and his big legs trembled. He looked weak and afraid. Although he was evil, I gave him the first chance. I reached out my left hand as I would do for a weaker man. I let him take hold of me, but I forgot about my old wound and my broken rib. He grabbed me hard around the waist. I felt one rib break again. I held his arm and pulled with all my strength. Then I caught him by the neck, because he had tried to grab mine. He fought hard. He hit my face and pushed against me, but my strength was greater. In a short time, he could not move, and his wild eyes turned upward.
I will not hurt you anymore, I cried, gasping for breath. Carver Doone, you are beaten. Say it, thank God, and go away to change your life.
But it was too late. Even if he wanted to stop, it was too late. The black bog had caught his feet. The ground pulled him down like a mouth drinking. We had not seen where we were fighting. I jumped back just in time to save myself. He fell into the soft mud. His chest was bare, and he looked like a dark log sticking out of the bog. He threw up his arms, covered with black mud. His eyes stared terribly. I could only stand and breathe hard. All my strength was gone. Slowly he sank, piece by piece, until he was gone. Chapter 75. Give away the grandeur. When the little boy came back with the bluebells he had found, there was nothing left of his father. Only a dark brown bubble showed on the black muddy ground. The swamp still moved and made low sounds among the wet plants. My body and my heart both hurt. I felt shame for my anger. Slowly I got on my horse again. I looked down at the small boy, Ensi. Would this kind and happy child become cruel like his father? Would he live badly and die in violence too? He looked up at me with his bright face, as if to say, "No, I will not." But what he said was this.
Don, he said, because he could not say John. Oh, Don, I'm so glad that bad man has gone. Take me home, Don. Take me home.
It is true what people say about the wicked. Even their own children do not love them. And I could believe that Carver Doone's cruel ways had frightened even his own child. I would not call any man truly bad unless his heart was cold. It hurt me deeply to hold the child of the man I had just killed. My feelings were foolish and wrong. I had wished to save that man after he was beaten. Still, my arms felt cold around the little boy. I would not have held him at all if I could have helped it. But I could not leave him there. The swamp was dangerous, and ravens were already flying around the dead horse. I was hurt and weak, so I could not tie the boy to the horse and walk beside him. I had lost much blood and felt faint and tired. It was lucky that my horse Kickums was quiet and gentle now. He walked home like a lamb. As we came near the farm, I felt like I was in a dream. The voices of men and women who came to meet me sounded far away and strange. Only the thought of Lorna's death rang in my head like a heavy bell. When we reached the stable door, I almost fell from the horse. John Fry looked surprised, took Kickums by the reins, and led him in. I walked slowly to the farmhouse, weak and shaking. Mother, wearing her ordinary clothes, helped me, though she was afraid to look at me.
I have killed him, I said. As he killed Lorna. Now let me see my wife, Mother. She is still mine, even if she is dead.
You cannot see her now, John, said Ruth Huckaback softly. Annie is with her.
What does that matter? I asked. Let me see her. Let me pray to die too.
All the women moved back and whispered. They looked at me with fear and pity. Some of them were crying. My face was hard and cold. Only Ruth stayed near me. She looked down and her hands trembled. One small hand touched my large shaking hand. The other rested on my torn coat, though she tried not to touch my blood. She whispered gently,
John, she is not dead. She may still live. She may still be your wife, your home, and your happiness. But you must not see her now.
Is there any hope for her? For me? I asked.
God only knows, dear John, Ruth said. But if she saw you now, it would surely kill her. You must get help first.
I obeyed her like a child. As we walked, I whispered, God will bless you for what you are doing. I truly believed it later when I learned what had happened. If not for Ruth, Lorna would have died at once. When I had left Lorna lying as if dead, Ruth had taken charge of everyone around. She told them to carry Lorna home right away on a wooden door, with a cushion under her head. Ruth used her own small hands to cut away the bridal dress, softly and carefully. Then she cleaned the wound in Lorna's side and took out the bullet. She washed the blood with cold water until it stopped. All this time, Lorna lay pale and still, almost dead. Ruth kept cleaning her face and sighed. She looked at her long eyelashes, so quiet on her white cheek. Then she laid her face close to Lorna's heart and asked for Spanish wine. She opened Lorna's mouth slowly and poured in wine with a small spoon. She lifted the weak neck and stroked her throat gently. Then she gave a little more wine and waited. Annie watched in fear and wonder. She thought she was a good nurse, but Ruth's calm movements made her stand back. A look from Ruth's dark eyes told Annie not to block the air. Everyone thought Ruth foolish and that she could not help much anymore. Then suddenly, Lorna's throat moved and she gave a soft sigh. Everyone stopped and began to hope again. For many days, she lay very close to death. Only Ruth's care, skill, and kindness kept her alive. Annie did not come often, and that was good. She was a kind nurse, but sometimes she could make things worse. Annie looked after my broken rib, which the doctor had set at the wedding. It became very sore and red, so that kept Annie busy enough. The doctor said poor Lorna was dead, but Ruth did not believe him. She refused to let him near her and cared for Lorna herself. With God's help, Ruth saved her. Maybe Lorna got better because her heart was bright and good. Maybe it was because she did not know I was hurt. Or maybe it was something special in her blood, as people said. Whatever the reason, she lived, and that same doctor who said she would die should know why. But one thing is sure, Lorna got well long before I did. I still felt the deep pain of losing her at the moment I had found her. It was hard to believe she was alive. With my wound burning and my head full of dark thoughts, I could not trust anyone. I thought Lorna was in her grave, and that people lied to me. My blood was strong, and my heart was proud, but my broken rib hurt greatly. It burned inside me, and I was ashamed that a man's hug and a pistol ball had broken me. That pain taught me a lesson. It made me quiet and humble, because I had never been ill before. I did not cry or hide or fear death. People shook their heads, saying my wound looked bad, but I did not care. Sometimes I even felt ready for heaven, and for Lorna. When I lay weak and restless, my mind turned again and again to one dark thought. Life without Lorna would be empty, only mind and no heart. Some men might choose such life, but I could not. I believed God made us for love and for company. My dear mother was full of tears and worry. She thought the Doones were born only to destroy us. She had begun to live again after long years of grief for my father. Then suddenly her son, my father's own child, was almost killed like him. She said God's ways were strange. Yes, they were, and always will be. We try to understand, but His ways are greater than ours. Even when I felt worst, I believed that God would help me, because I had always tried to do right. One day I sat alone in my room. I could not go downstairs. No one was strong enough to carry me, even if I had let them. I had dressed in my Sunday clothes to show respect for the doctor. He was coming to bleed me again, as he did twice each week. He had seemed unhappy before when I wore my old clothes for this. It was hard for me to dress myself, but I managed it. I looked at my right hand. Once it had been strong like an iron tool, but now it looked weak and white. The shape and veins were the same, yet the color was pale. I laughed sadly when I could not lift the bowl for bleeding. Then I thought of the summer outside. I heard bees singing softly. They must be flying among the thyme, happy and full. There were roses, woodbine, and sweet flowers in bloom now. The cherries must be turning red. The yellow flowers by the brook were shining. The wheat was growing, and the early meadows were being cut for hay. But I sat helpless, shut away from it all. I could not see or smell any of those lovely things. And worst of all, I feared I might never enjoy them again. Presently there was a small knock on my door. I thought it was the doctor, so I tried to stand and greet him. But to my surprise, it was little Ruth. She had never come to see me before, since the doctor started caring for me. Ruth looked very bright and cheerful. She wore pretty clothes with ribbons and flowers. I felt sorry that she came looking so proud. I thought she was here to show herself off, now that Lorna was gone. Ruth came quickly toward me. Her eyes were shining, and she did not see well at a distance. Then she stopped suddenly and looked shocked. Her face showed real surprise.
"Can you have visitors, Cousin Rid?" she cried. "They never told me this. I knew you were weak, dear John, but not that you were dying. What is that bowl for?"
I am not dying, Ruth, I said. I do not like such talk. That bowl belongs to the doctor.
"What? Does he still make you bleed?" she asked. "You poor cousin. Can that still be done?"
Yes, I answered. Twice a week for the last 6 weeks. It has kept me alive.
"It has nearly killed you," Ruth said sharply. Then she put her small boot across the bowl and broke it. "No more of that. Is Annie such a fool to allow this? And Lizzie, always with her books, does she not see it kills her brother?"
I was astonished to see Ruth so angry. She was usually calm and gentle. I tried to quiet her with my weak hand as she knelt beside me.
Dear cousin, I said softly, the doctor must know what is best. Annie says that every day. That is what he was trained to do.
Brought up for killing, she said.
20 doctors could not save King Charles, even with all the women trying to help him. Will you let me help you, John? I have my own way of doing things. I am not afraid of doctors. Please let me do it, dear John. I saved your Lorna's life. Now I will save yours. That will be much easier.
You saved my Lorna's life, I said. What are you talking about?
I mean what I said, Cousin John. Maybe I think my work is more important than it really is. But Lorna said that I saved her.
I do not understand, I said, stepping back in surprise. All women tell lies.
Have I ever told a lie? Ruth asked, sounding angry, though I thought she was not truly angry. Your mother may tell a story sometimes when she thinks it is right. Maybe both your sisters do that too. But you do not, John Ridd. And I do not either.
There was real honesty in Ruth Huckaback's eyes. I saw that she was telling the truth. My head began to think slowly again, though I felt weak from losing so much blood.
I do not understand, I said once more, after a long time.
Will you understand if I show you Lorna? I was afraid to do it before, for both your sakes. But now Lorna is strong enough. If you are strong too, Cousin John, you can see her. When you see your wife, you will understand.
Following her with all my thoughts and feelings, I believed that everything she said was true. Still, I did not understand it. Her last words sounded cheerful, but I could feel the sadness behind them. Then I thought, almost like in a dream, Ruth is very beautiful. Before I could wait long for footsteps, Ruth came back with Lorna behind her. Lorna looked shy and gentle, like a bride, and she stopped near the door. Ruth closed the door fast and ran away, and Lorna stood still in front of me. When she saw me, she could not stay still even a moment. Although I was covered in bandages and near many bottles of medicine, she came to me quickly. She reached my arms, though I could hardly hold her. She put her warm chest against me where the doctors wanted to treat me, and lifted my face. She did not look at me, but kissed me again and again. My life and strength came back. I began to feel trust in women again. I felt happy to live and strong enough to do it. It is hard to speak of such a moment. Only someone who has felt it can understand. Her tears, her kisses, and the beat of her heart on mine made me feel that life was good and the world was kind again. There is not much more to tell. The doctor had to go at once, and slowly I became strong again. I had my dear wife beside me, and good food to eat. Lorna never got tired of watching me eat. Her eyes were always soft and full of love. She liked to be near me everywhere we went, in beautiful places, with her arm around me. We spoke of all the hard times, the fears, the dangers, and the sad goodbyes we once had. I do not need to work too hard on the farm now. Lorna has much money, but we take little from it, only to help our poor neighbors. Sometimes I buy her a fine dress from her own money. She always says it is a wonderful gift from me. She kisses me when she wears it and walks proudly like the noble woman she is. But soon she goes back to her simple clothes, and I love her more in them. I think she gives half of her rich clothes to the poor and keeps the rest for our children.
Poor Tom Faggus had many troubles after his pardon was taken back, because he went to Sedgemoor. Everyone in the country knows his story better than I do. He said the law had ruined him once, and then he had beaten it. But when he wished to live quietly, the law came after him again. He was so afraid of being caught that, when soldiers trapped him on Barnstaple Bridge, he whispered to his horse, Winnie. Without fear, she jumped from the bridge into the river, swam across, and climbed out on the other side. Another time, when men waited to catch him at an inn, Winnie broke down the door, knocked down 2 men, and ran away with Tom. People later said Tom was caught and hanged, but we knew that was not true. With his good wife, brave horse, and friends around him, he stayed free until a new king came. Then he asked again for pardon, and Jeremy Stickles helped him get it. After that, Tom lived a good life, though he did not always keep sober, and taught his children to be honest.
My dear mother was very happy living with us. She had nothing to make her jealous, even when more children were born around her. Everyone laughed when Lizzie came in one day, threw down her books, and said she would marry Captain Bloxham. She said he was the only man she knew who liked good writing and could spell words. He had taken Captain Stickles' work after Stickles went away, and he could collect and keep things as he liked. There was no reason to stop her, and we hoped he would take good care of her. I sent little Ensie to Blundell School and paid for everything. I changed his name to Ensie Jones, to keep him safe. Later, he became an officer and did great things in the Low Countries. He calls me his father and will not use the Doone name or title unless I agree. Ruth Huckaback is still not married. When her uncle Reuben died, she inherited all his property, except for £2,000, which Uncle Ben left to me for cleaning the testator's boots, as he wrote. And he left a large amount of money. It did not come from the mine, but from his shop and his careful lending of money. The mine only gave back what it cost to work it. Then the gold ended very suddenly. Everyone became older, and some lost part of their wealth. But no one was completely ruined, as often happens. Ruth was his real treasure, as he saw when he was dying. I know a man who truly deserves her. She is not very young now, but he loves her deeply, as I love Lorna. I believe he will marry her in the end. I will not dance again until her wedding day, if the floor can hold me. I will not speak much of Lorna, my dear wife. It is not right for a man to praise his own joy too much. Every year she grows more beautiful. Her beauty comes from her kindness, her goodness, and her happy heart. She becomes lovelier because she loves. Sometimes she makes a joke about this change and laughs about it. When I am slow to understand, she stops joking and turns serious again. If I ever want to tease her for something she has done, I remind her of her old sadness. Then she comes back to me for comfort, and I heal it with just 2 words, Lorna Doone.